Always that little bit of fuzziness. All right, we are set. We are ready. We're about ready. Just gotta straighten this up a little bit. There we go. Good little tilt right there. Let's make sure I get a blank page, just in case. Gen Z etiquettes. Oof. Good morning, y'all. 早上好。早早早. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. Hope we've had a decent week so far. Hey, we're halfway there. Whoa. Living on a prayer. Okay, let's turn on the AC though, because it's really hot. You know, I noticed something interesting every morning when I come to the office. Like right now, I can hear her. There's a woman outside of my office with her camera set up and she's doing a live stream. Half of the time she's just talking really fast, the other half of the time she's singing songs. I just think it's so funny. Like it's interesting. I mean, we're both live stream, right? We're both live streaming. Hey Jessica, good morning. But yeah, I just thought it was funny because I'm like, what are you streaming this early in the morning, singing songs and stuff? It's funny. But then at the same time, you know, when I opened the stream before downstairs while we were doing renovation, I would also play guitar and sing some songs. So I get it. That's kind of cool. But she's really loud though, I'm not gonna lie. Like I can hear her in my office even though she's outside and the windows are closed. But it's all good. She just wants to make sure she projects so they hear her. Good morning, Yen. Good morning, Iris, Paul, and who is that? Nura. How do I say your name? Are you a new person or did you change your name? This is a really interesting one. I mean, I think I recognize the Ura part, but I don't recognize the first part. That's a little bit funny. That's different. Shout out, bro. Shout out from Egypt to you. Shout out from China to you. Good morning, Egypt. Or what time is it in Egypt right now, actually? So, second day coming to your. Oh, okay, okay. Good morning, Amy. Welcome back. Welcome back. Nice. Oh, dang. It's 2 a.m. That is too early, my friend. That is too early. Wow, I'm sorry. I guess it is good morning to Egypt. All right. And so yesterday, for the last 2 days actually, we've been catching up on the topic of loneliness. The first part that we covered was in regards to what can you do to sort of fill those gaps of loneliness, especially if you travel, like I do when you travel for work, right? So that was good. There's just a matter of like, okay, what kind of groups do you usually like to associate with, for what reason? And then you find those groups in the different places where you are traveling. So in my particular example, I was talking about, hey, good morning, Lily and Cloud. I was talking about, I personally like to gravitate towards language exchange groups, traveler groups, and what was the last one? Oh, the dance groups, right? The dance groups. So actually, whenever I do travel, it doesn't really feel that lonely because most of the time I do have something to do. I do find new people to meet and to learn from, basically. So I would say that's probably one of the better tips. So that's the first part. In the second part, or in the second day where we were discussing this topic, it was more interesting to me that there's a lot of people that seem to deal with a balancing of loneliness and social anxiety. And I think it makes sense, especially if you're part of the generation that always had a smartphone and social media in your hand. Then I can definitely understand why that feeling may come up, right? So, in that regard, I don't know this for a fact, right? This is just my speculation, but I think like the best thing to do is when you do go to different events, when you do network and things like that, you should probably leave at a high point if possible. Just if you're feeling good, everything is going well, fantastic, leave on a high point because at least next time you will still feel motivated to join, right? Don't leave at a point where you feel exhausted and you feel like, man, this is really draining. And then it's the same thing with the idea of loneliness. For a period of time, a lot of us prefer to be alone. A lot of us like our me time. But there is a line between the me time and the loneliness kicking in, right? So ideally, when you start feeling the upper sections of that me time, when you start feeling good about it, that is definitely when you want to start trying to get out, trying to network, trying to go meet people, do something with others, just so that in the future, you will consistently feel more and more positive about your alone time. And in the reverse side, you also feel positive about spending time with others. So that is basically my routine. I don't like to do anything to the point of exhaustion or anything to the point where the feeling of it being good becomes bad. Because otherwise, I won't really be very motivated to do it again or try it again. Mm. So I think that basically covers most of the things that we talked about the last couple days. So today we're gonna go ahead and pick up on our talking points, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Oh, I have a business. I have a business list for the next conversation. All right, so let's do a quick summary. Causes of loneliness, life transitions, moving to a new city, breakups, career changes. These shifts disrupt social connections and routines. Good, we've covered that. Digital dependency, more time online can replace meaningful in person interactions, leading to surface level connection that lacks depth. So, that idea that you spend a whole lot of time talking to other people, but it's on the internet, but it's through social media almost exclusively. So unfortunately, it does create a sort of lack of depth. It's very superficial for the most part because our attitudes, our behavior, and the way that we engage with people in person is very different from what we do online. Next bit. Cultural expectations. There's often pressure to constantly be around people or be in a relationship, making people feel lonely if they are single or not surrounded by friends. So I did cover this, and one thing that stood out to me about this talking point was that it isn't a universal talking point. It is definitely something that I would say it makes sense in Western culture that there is this sort of pressure to be around other people, to not really be on your own or by yourself most of the time, even though it's a very individualist culture. But on the Eastern end, there doesn't seem to be that focus about always being around other people, always being social. The focus is more about studying, working hard, getting married, having babies, and dying. That's depressing. Uh, sorry about that. Ah, that's so sad. Even I'm speechless from that. Oof, oof. Anyway, so yesterday we also highlighted the point that when you are on your own and you try to interact with strangers, you try to engage with strangers, their reaction, especially their initial reaction, is very different from that of if you were trying to engage with strangers while you are with other people. It is just a matter of when you see a person alone, there seems to be this instinct of wariness, of, there's something dangerous about that person. Why are they by themselves? But when you see them with others, it doesn't feel quite as dangerous because if they are accepted by another person, right, if they are part of another group, then they must be somewhat safe. Unless they're all just horrible people and they happen to be in a group. That's different. Okay, so let's see. Mental health. Anxiety, depression, or even social media comparison traps can make people withdraw and feel isolated. Ooh, that's a good talking point. I'm sure I've covered this before. Hey, May, good morning. So, yes, I would definitely say that. Do you guys believe on this side, right? On the Chinese social media side, do you guys believe that there is a big problem of comparison on Chinese social media where people, especially young people, will spend a lot of time looking at others on social media, their life, their clothes, their cars, etc., and then comparing themselves to those individuals, which in turn ends up making them feel worse about their own lives. Is that like a real big thing for you guys? Because I can tell you on Western social media, it definitely is, especially when you look at platforms like Instagram, for example, maybe TikTok as well, but I'm not totally certain about that because I don't use TikTok. But I would say on Instagram, this is definitely a big problem where folks would go on there and they just consume this content of seeing other people enjoy their lives and adventuring and being beautiful or whatever. And they think of their own lives as sort of less than, like they're not as accomplished, they're not as fulfilled. And it's not just young people, like not very young. You can be in your 30s and 40s and also feel like this, right? It's not just 20 something year olds and teenagers. So this is pretty tough because I think one of the big things that people forget is when you're looking at social media, you don't really see what the person's life is like. It's like when you watch a movie. When you're watching a movie, you don't see the boring, redundant parts of that person's life in the movie. You only see the highlights. So, in that situation, if you're only seeing the highlights, how is that a fair comparison to your own life? Of course, it isn't. Give me 1 second, guys. Of course, it isn't, right? So, the idea is this an issue that we actually experience when we look at WeChat, where we look at Xiaohongshu, or when we look at Douyin? I'm not totally sure because I usually don't engage on those platforms other than to post my own content. I don't actually like scroll through it or anything. Oh, nice. Got my binder. Yee, pretty. Let's see. So Nick says, how about a man alone encounter a lady alone by herself? Well, I think we're gonna need a little bit more detail, Nick, in that regard. Like, you might have to paint that scenario a little more clearly. I see. So Alyssa says, people like to judge others by their friends. Okay. Well, that is true. Oh, you know what? Now that you mention it, yes, that is exceptionally true here. Yes, because of the whole how important your social status is based on the people that you know, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's inaccurate or wrong. It kind of makes sense. I would say it makes a lot of sense. But now the question is, when you come back to the main topic, does this comparison or does this situation make a person feel any more or any less lonely? If you think that you have like special friends or important friends, or if you think someone else actually has what you think is special or important friends, does that make you feel more lonely in comparison? Okay, let's see. So we'll go to the next talking point, but let that rock out there. If you want to add a comment about it, it's totally fine. Okay, so the good side of loneliness. Oh, yes, I was wondering where we were going to get to this. The good side of loneliness. So when you hear the word lonely, when you think about loneliness, you don't immediately think about good things. You just think about bad things, I'm pretty sure. But for me, I definitely think that there's a lot of good to loneliness, to having your alone time, if that makes sense. So, right off the top of my head, I would say even though I don't practice meditation, I know most people, they will practice their meditation by themselves. And that gives them time alone to reflect. Either, honestly speaking, I don't do meditation. I just know a lot of people that swear by meditation being amazing. And this is the description more or less that I get, is that you have time to be alone and reflect on yourself, reflect on your life, your emotions, and everything that's happening. Is something about feeling your entire self in a certain period of time, removing all of the distractions and being comfortable being in your own head, if that makes sense. So if I try to think about like what does the opposite of this look like, I think about if I'm in my room alone or in an office or something like this, and I turn on the radio or I just turn on the TV, not because I want to watch something or listen to something, but just because I want background noise. I want to feel like there's something happening around me, like someone else is there. This to me, it seems to be, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But this to me seems to be like when you feel sort of afraid to be with your own thoughts. Not sure if that makes sense. But I know not now, but thankfully I'm much better about it now. But I know some years ago in the past, I would definitely do things like this. I would not want to spend time in my own head, if that makes sense, because everything that would come up is something about self-esteem or insecurity, or am I doing enough, or am I doing too much, or why am I alone right now? Whatever it is, so many things come up in your head when you are just quiet in a room and just have your own head your own head to keep you busy. That's scary. That can be really, really scary. For me, it's not scary anymore, but at that time, it definitely was. So I would say, yeah, if you're a person who suffers with this, you should probably take like 2 minutes out of your day to have some alone time and just think. Whatever it is you want to think about yourself, think about your emotions, think about the things that are going through your life and how you are reacting to those things. Oh my God, I can't even English right now. How you are reacting to the things that are happening in your life. What are things you could have done better within the last day or two, something like this. I would say it's definitely good practice to be able to be in your own head and be comfortable with yourself. If you don't practice doing that, it can be very disturbing when you are forced to be in your head and be on your own. Okay, let me catch up. Comments. Oh my goodness. Okay. I probably should have not taken away the comment screen. Give me a second. All right, so Nick says, it is less likely to spark chemistry than both parties have accompanied by others. That is interesting. Whoa. Okay. So Nick was saying, how about when a man encounters a woman on his own or vice versa, right? And Nick's follow-up is, it is less likely to spark chemistry than both parties have been accompanied by others. That is so interesting because I believe that it's true. So Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is that when two people encounter each other, strangers, right, encounter each other for the first time, um, it is more a sense of wariness. It is less likely to give a sort of sense of chemistry or attraction or something like that. But when, let's say, a couple of people encounter each other, they don't know each other. You have two different groups of strangers or two people here, two people there. It is more likely for them to have a sort of either attraction or chemistry or look at each other in a different way because they are being accompanied by other people. Because if that's what you're saying, actually, that sounds pretty right. That sounds pretty relevant to me. I'm also very wary of a person on their own. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. I think women are even more dangerous when they're by themselves. Oh, okay. So Alyssa says, yes, it makes me feel more lonely because they don't trust me, they don't know, and they don't trust me. Okay. Sometimes, so Alyssa says, sometimes I don't even know myself. What does that mean, Alyssa? What is it that you don't know about yourself? Let me know. Yeah, I think we're crossing into that realm, buddy. So he says, should we just call it solitude instead of loneliness? Yes, you can call it solitude. You can definitely call it solitude. But from the last 2 days, because this is the third day, so from the last 2 days where we were discussing loneliness, we just kind of naturally escalated to this point of being isolated or being in solitude. Eventually, even if you choose to be alone, right? Even if you choose solitude or isolation, eventually it turns into loneliness. It's really just a matter of time. It does turn into loneliness. So I'm not sure I would just line it up as solitude. And after a few times later, you don't know why you chose this option. That is good to hear, Alyssa. Thank you very much. Okay, I see. Okay. I can't read your name. Oof, I really can't read your name. That's too difficult. But he says, it is difficult for people. I'm going to call you 20 for now. So 20 says, it is difficult for people to enjoy loneliness, but can be comfortable in solitude. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Hey, good morning, Lucinda. Zao, zao, zao. I do. I definitely do. All right, so Nick says maybe men don't mind meeting a lady by herself or alone. Yeah, I definitely mind. I am very, very wary of meeting a girl by herself. So I don't know if you know this, Nick, right? But I guess as a man, you might think like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing, but in reality is not. Maybe it hasn't really caught on in China in the same way that I'm thinking about it. But if I'm a guy and I'm meeting up with a girl by herself and we don't know each other like super well, or maybe we went on like on a date once or twice, I definitely would not want to be by myself with her. Definitely not. Because when you do that, whatever happens or doesn't happen, only you and her know it. You know what I mean? So from that moment, you can literally be accused of anything. And have seen this gone wrong. Really, really horribly wrong. So I prefer to spend time with a girl who's with other girls or with other guys, just with three or more people. Spending one-on-one time with girls is not my thing unless we are already dating or it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, whatever, or a family member. Yeah. Ha! No, Nick. No way. All right, Nick says, in the Chinese concept, men basically has nothing to lose. Boy, you better pay attention. You better start watching the news. You better pay attention, my friend. How many times haven't people been arrested, put in prison, gone to trial, and then found innocent because someone accused them of something they didn't do? Oof. Granted, a lot of guys are horrible and they do the things that they're accused of, but we've definitely have seen a nice rise in men being accused of things that actually never happened just because, okay, well, I spent time with this person alone. And then they get saved by text messages or security camera footage that proves that they're innocent. So when it comes to this sort of situation, I'd say be very, very careful. Because as a man, when you are alone with a woman, if anything happens, or if you're even accused of something happening the wrong way, you are guilty. You are guilty until proven innocent. You are not innocent until proven guilty. You are 100% guilty until you are proven innocent. So, as a man, I would suggest and advise you to be very careful and don't spend time alone with women that you don't need to be spending time alone with. You know what I mean? I'm so wary of this. Like I wouldn't even have a meeting with a woman by herself. I will not. I refuse. So even for my business, even for consulting, even for my staff, I do not meet with girls on their own ever. I'm like, well, we're gonna have a meeting. The meeting is for our content creation, our editor, for example, right? And our editor is a girl. If I need to have a meeting with my editor, I still make sure like one of my sales girls is there too. And then she's like, oh, do I really need to be here? I can go do some sales, whatever. I was like, no, 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 no. You need to be here. I don't actually tell them why, but I'm like, yes, you need to be here. I know that this meeting is about content creation and social media, and you're not focused on that, but you need to be here. Maybe when you listen to the meeting, you might get some ideas. You might realize some things you didn't realize before about the content creation. When you're doing sales and you're talking to clients, these things might come up. You can give her some ideas to make some new videos. This is generally my excuse. But the reality is that I personally, I am not comfortable with being in a meeting or any sort of thing like that with a girl on her own. I don't, if it was a guy, it's okay. I don't really mind having a meeting one on one with a guy, but with a girl, no way. I was like, nah, man, I have way too much to lose. I don't risk it. Let's see. So he says, solitude is more of acceptance in the first place. Loneliness possibly is the consequence. Wouldn't wait, loneliness perhaps is a consequence. Hmm. I think that those two things are not necessarily related to one another. I don't think so. Because like solitude is a choice and loneliness is a feeling, right? So we don't intentionally invoke loneliness, right? But for solitude, if you like isolate yourself intentionally, that's very different. So I don't think loneliness usually in most situations loneliness would not be a consequence of solitude. But you know what? Yeah, I guess it does make sense. It is possible. I Jessica, do you blame me? Do you blame me, Jessica? Of course I'm cautious. Jessica says, haha, you're too cautious. No, dude, I don't think I'm too cautious. I don't think I'm cautious enough. I need to put security cameras all over my office. See, my thing is that I don't believe that as a man or as a woman, I don't think you should put yourself in a position to compromise your safety or to compromise your integrity. You know what I mean? I don't think you should do that. So that's why I am cautious in that way. It's just, you don't know people. You think you know people are good, but you really don't know people's intention. I think a very good example of that is all the people who like to jump in front of cars. You don't hit them, but they pretend that you hit them and they just want to take money from you. How many times doesn't this happen in a day? Forget it, man. Don't be a fool and don't feel comfortable trusting people like that. I don't think that's a good idea. Got you. Jessica says, oh, even with friends. So it depends, Jessica. So here's the thing. Like, I have some friends that I've known for years. So 2 years, 3 years, right? If I hang out with that friend alone, like just me and my friend, it's not really a big deal. But I wouldn't hang out with them alone at home or in their house or in my room, like that kind of thing. With those friends, I would only spend time with them alone in public. So if we go out for a movie, we go out for dinner, this kind of stuff. In that situation, I would, but I wouldn't spend time with them alone privately. No. Even my friends that I've known for years. It's just not a great idea. I don't think so. Yeah, unless we really have like a formal agreement beforehand that we're like dating or whatever, we show interest in one another. There is that connection and there is that consent that okay, we have a mutual attraction, blah, blah, blah. Okay, from that point is a little bit different, right? But if that has not been explicitly stated, especially in digital form, that I can print it out and show it, I I do not risk being alone with girls. No, no, thank you. Nick said, but it's true, right? Whereas parents would always tell off their daughters, be aware of boys. But it's true. I agree with that. Like, you should be aware. You should be aware because you don't know people's intention. It doesn't really matter if we're talking about men or women anymore. You just don't know what the person's intention is, right? So easily, look, I can tell you, easily, I can meet a girl, it could be an employee, it can be a friend, it could be a friend's friend, whatever. They can meet me and they can say like, "Oh, okay. So I know what Comet has. I know what his businesses are. I have an idea of how much money he makes. If I can get him by himself for a couple of hours and later I can send him a message and say, "Oh, I felt really uncomfortable. I felt like you were keeping me there by force and I was so scared." If I can do this, then I can ask him for compensation. I can have him give me money or something like that so that he doesn't have to deal with this problem. Yo, it sounds like a crazy scenario, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time. So, what I will tell you, maybe if you're like really young and really broke, like you're young, you don't have a career, you don't have any money, you have nothing happening in your life, maybe you can take this kind of risk. It's not a big deal because people are not looking at you with the same eyes, you know what I mean? With the same intention. But as you get older and as you end up building your career and your life and it is more evident, you need to be careful. You need to be very, very careful. I know it sounds crazy, but it is a lot more common than you think. You can literally just Google it and see how many times this has happened. It's insane. No, Nick, I don't think that's a problem, bro. But here's the thing. I can tell you until now, it has something like that has not happened to me, and I also don't want it to happen to me. So this is what I do. And this is how I try to keep away from that. I mean, look, I'm not gonna pin up your comment, but I'm gonna hit a like on that, brother. So he says, what is it? Wan Li or Fang Li? America's justice system is biased against black men, so they walk a tightrope while being alone with females. I mean, yeah, I agree to a point, but I don't think it's just black men. I think it's like men in general. But the thing is, like when we're talking about black men in particular, is that for a lot of people, for many people, the appearance of you as a black man is already intimidating. It's already scary to them. Is it scary in reality? No, not really. But for a lot of people, just seeing a black man is scary. So your tone of voice, if it's deep, you're scarier. If you're tall, you're even scarier. If you happen to be muscular, even scarier. So if you're black on top of all that, it just makes things worse. It is a stereotype and it is a prejudice, but it is the truth. That is how we're typically viewed. But I mean, I'm black biracial, so it's like I don't have the same consequences as like other black guys who are darker than me. I definitely know that there is a problem with colorism, even with the same people, but oof, it's rough. It's rough, dude. Just don't spend time alone in private with women and girls that you are not supposed to be with. It's just not a good idea. Mm, thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Trisha. So Trisha says male teachers should follow this rule of cautiousness. 100%. And you know what? Now that you mention it, Trisha, I think that's where I got it from. I believe that's where I got it from, Trisha. I didn't think about this before, but I think you are right. So I was teaching from the time I was like 16 until 25, something like that. So I was teaching for like 8 years. I don't remember exactly, but I was teaching for like 8 years. I was teaching ESL a while ago. This is a while ago, right? And I already know, like for us, when you grow up in the US, we are very, very protective about this sort of situation with kids, especially little girls. Little girls and little boys alike, but especially little girls. So we already have this idea that a child should not be alone with an adult male that is not like their child or they're not the direct caregiver, this kind of thing. So when we're looking at it from the perspective of a teacher, it is also good to practice this sort of caution. It can be for several reasons, right? Because if you have like a naughty kid or something like that and they act a little crazy and you have to control them, that's very hard to do if you are with the kid by themselves because the child can accuse you of anything. Oh, he beat me up or he threw me or something. Regardless of evidence, you're going to be guilty before you're actually proven guilty. I know I've had a similar scenario like this with these crazy kids, with at least once with a really, really horrible kid. And I'm not an idiot. I made sure that I was directly in front of the cameras, directly in front of the CCTV. And you can see clearly that this kid was going crazy. And there was another parent there. And I said, excuse me, can you do me a favor? Can you please take your phone and record what this child is doing? Because I don't want to be accused of something I didn't do so that I can handle this kid. And so the other parent, it's not the kid's mom, it's another parent there. She was recording a video and she's talking to him like, hey, try to calm down. You shouldn't behave this way with the teacher, blah, blah, blah. This happened to me once. And of course, the parent, the kid's actual parent thought I was horrible. It's like, oh my God, you're such a horrible person and all this kind of stuff. Why would you handle the kid like this? And I'm like, so you're telling me that I should allow your child to jump on me, claw me, and bite me because why? Again? That didn't make sense to me. But thankfully, because we did have the security cameras and we did have another person, another parent in the room that was recording what was happening, you can see that I was not actually hurting the kid or abusing the kid, but I was restraining the kid. And in the mom's opinion, I should not restrain the kid. I should just let him go crazy. It's like, yeah, no, we're not gonna have that. So yeah, Trisha, I think you're right. I think part of my attitude about this does come from like my teaching experience and just being very cautious about being alone with kids, especially considering their behavior. And then besides like, okay, you might have crazy naughty kids, but there are teachers, there are people, in fact, that they become teachers so that they can get close to children. This is, yeah, I know it doesn't sound nice, but it is the reality. This is a thing that does happen in real life. And we've seen reports of that happening here as well. So I'm also very wary and cautious of this. So yeah, I think it makes sense, Trisha. It is a matter of like that thing about not wanting to be alone with girls probably comes from my teaching. It could be. So let me see. So I think it's Fanli. I don't know if it's Fanli, but I'm saying Fanli for now. So Fanli says it's a matter of racism in your case if you're scared of females. So in some situations it can be, but I already know that in many cases that there's been plenty of white men who have been accused of doing things that they didn't do by women because they were alone with a woman. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a matter of racism. That does play a role sometimes, but it also definitely happens to white men being alone with white women or white men being alone with black women. Like it is something that happens to them as well. There was the case with this guy. He was like a football player, like NFL player or something, and you can see like he has security cameras in his house. He has all the text messages that she was sending her friend and whatever. That the girl, she was setting a trap to be with him alone overnight, whatever. And then the next day, she starts filing a case and accuses him of like rape and sexual assault. And she gets her lawyer. Oh, I guess I can't say that on YouTube. Sorry. And then she gets her lawyer, and it ends up like after like a year or 2 years almost of this trial of this investigation. Like, why? There isn't 2 years to investigate. You can see the security footage. The person came in and came out totally fine, totally happy, but she didn't know that he had cameras inside his house. So all the things that she was accusing him of didn't make sense because he has security cameras in his own home that she didn't know. So that was stupid. But besides that, I think it's kind of obvious when you're sharing text messages with your friends saying like you're gonna try to trap this guy and get money from him by accusing him of stuff. Because she literally just said that to her friend in a text message. And then she goes back and deletes all the text messages. But it doesn't matter. You sent it over a wireless network. It's going to be stored online anyway. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yes. Very good to have a clear boundary. Absolutely. Oh, hey. Daniela says, sorry, but what are we talking about? Actually, we were talking about loneliness, but I think it escalated. Let's see, Nick. And ladies will like to take advantage of you, but for common looking males, females usually take a dominant role. Oh, well, no, I don't think it's a matter of appearance. I think it's a matter of opportunity. It's definitely a matter of opportunity. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. So finally says, sexual harassment is prevalent on college campuses where professors make advances to their female students. I believe that that is true, yes, but I don't have the numbers to tell you whether or not it is more common in a college campus as opposed to a high school, as opposed to an office or something else, right? I'm not so sure like if it's a matter of it being a bigger problem in college campuses as opposed to everyday life, because frankly speaking, a predator is a predator, no matter what the scenario is or where it can happen. The situation with college campuses is that we are assuming, right? Everyone is an adult, whether or not a person is a teacher or a student, they are still adults, right? And so with college campuses, you have ample opportunity to have one-on-one time with a teacher and a student or professor and a student. And I think that with this, it opens up, let's say, a lot of opportunities for misconduct. How about that? Yeah, so Bless says, yeah, teacher shouldn't be alone with the student unless there is a CCTV camera. Look, I think even when there is a CCTV camera, I do not want to be alone with a student. I just like, eh. Like with the boys, maybe like it's okay. I mean, if the door is open and someone's on the other side, and then, okay, maybe that's fine, but that's about it. But it's just not good. I think for your own peace of mind, for the peace of mind of the student, of the parent, and yourself as a teacher, it's just better to avoid this altogether. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is like, in my opinion, you guys can tell me if you disagree, right? In my opinion, there isn't a situation where I can find a downside to having a camera or having a CCTV. There isn't really a situation where I think that it's going to be a bad thing to have one. So whether you are teaching a class or you're going to a restaurant or a movie theater or whatever, like with the exception of going to the toilet, I really don't see what would not be good about having a camera around, just for the peace of mind of knowing that if something happens, you will know actually what happened and you have that peace of mind. So it makes it less likely, first of all, it makes it less likely that you have predators who are going to act on what they are trying to do, on their urges, because they know that there's surveillance, right? It makes it less likely, at least. And number two, it also makes it less likely that a person can be accused of something that didn't actually happen, because you have the evidence. That's the idea. Where there is power, there is corruption. Yeah, tell him, Ken. Definitely. Hmm. Right. Exactly. So he says power distance is imbalanced in a teacher-student relationship. Yes, 100%. I would say it's not only this. So when we're talking about a teacher and a student, when we're talking about an uncle or an aunt with their nephews, it is imbalance, right? The parents to the kids, it is imbalance. Teachers to students, it is imbalance. The boss and their staff, there's imbalance. So sometimes it's not just a matter of you are alone with a person, but it's also the matter of that there is a certain power dynamic that takes place. And that power dynamic makes it more likely that one person can take advantage of the other. So it's not just in schools, it can happen at home, it can happen at work, it can happen in church. So don't get confident about any of those situations. It is very real. Exactly. But dude, it's not. So L says professionalism is the priority at work. Why would you risk your career for a student? Dude, I don't know what it is. You can call it a moment of weakness or temptation or whatever, but they do it. That's the problem. They still do it. I know it doesn't make sense, but the situation is that it still happens. Oh, John, John says, too sexy. I want to be a professor. It's, oh my God. Really? So L says, in my school in South Africa, recordings in a classroom was against the law. What? Really? Recordings in the classroom are against the law in South Africa? Is that still the case now? Or like when you were in school? Or are you in school now? See, guys, I don't have a water problem now. I brought a whole kettle with me. The whole kettle. Okay, DS Carl says privacy shouldn't be violated. So, hey, dude, expand on that. Tell me more on your point of view of that. Privacy shouldn't be violated. So, privacy in what respect? Students can be seductive. L says students can be seductive. Listen, while that is potentially true, like I said, power dynamics and just just have a CCTV. Like, just do it. It's true. Hey V, good morning. So V says, I think teachers are at risk from students regardless of the power dynamic. Yeah, there is no, but you see, This is what I'm talking about, though. This is what I'm talking about when I say I refuse to be alone with a woman. I refuse to be alone privately with a girl. This is what I'm saying, right? Even though 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be bigger and stronger than her. And at least 8 times out of 10, I'm probably going to have a higher position of power than she does because it's probably my staff member or a client or something like this. I still don't want to be in a room alone with this girl. I don't care. I don't care because it is a bigger risk to me and my life and my career than it would be to her, in my opinion. So, yes, when you say like teachers are at risk from students, regardless of power dynamic, hell yeah, absolutely. So, it's better for everybody if we just don't have private time like that. Nah. You should just have private time with your private person, and that's it. Yeah, some kids are messed up. Some kids are messed up. Agreed, agreed, agreed. Nah, I know. Oh, Canary, really, Canary, you've been listening to my streams for like a year now. Do you really think I'm introverted? Do you? A strong libido can't be kept in check. What? I knew a college student, a college who slept. Oh, a college professor who slept with his students and they liked him. Ah, listen. So, my friend, one of my good gal friends, told me a story. I'm going to share with you guys very briefly. When she was in high school and she was about 14 years old, give or take, her PE teacher was like kind of like calming on to her and giving her compliments and whatever. And that was all fine and well. It wasn't really a big deal until her PE teacher was inviting her out to come to his home and visit her after school and this kind of stuff. And I'm like, if you are a 14-year-old girl in a public school in China, why, for what reason does your PE teacher need you to come to his home and visit him? What could possibly be so important and so necessary that this girl, this child, needs to go to the PE teacher's home? Something there doesn't quite make sense. This is what part of Comet is introverted? The part in my shirt. Let's see. So DS Carl, earlier DS Carl said privacy should not be violated. So we're expanding on that real quick. I mean that the increasing prevalence of surveillance is indeed infringing on people's privacy. I know what you mean like that, but that is too general, Carl. I don't know, Carl DS. I don't know. I don't want to say the whole name, but yeah, that is too general. Like infringing on people's privacy, yes, but in what respect specifically? You know? Oh, dude, Canary, you're good. You're good. We're just chilling. Right, V. Was it fine? Okay. So Feng Li says, certain female students love to be seduced so that they can shake down the professors for, oh my God. Bro. Yo. Listen, I'm not gonna get into that one. I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. Fondly has a comment there, and you guys can go ahead and argue on that. I'm not gonna pursue it. Yes, at times as teachers, we are like parent figures. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. 对呀。No, it wasn't that she was going to his house. It's that he was trying to get her to go to his house. But thankfully, her 14-year-old intuition didn't allow her to. She's like, I think I should because it's my teacher, but at the same time, this sounds like a bad idea. And I'm not sure if she spoke about it with her classmates at the time because it was a long time ago. As he should. As he should. You didn't know, Elle? You didn't know? Are you just finding this out, my friend? Mama, girl behind you. But I do want to highlight something real quick. Um, Even though it is more common that it is going to be like a male teacher, right? I do want to highlight that there has also been an uptick, at least in the US. There has been a nice uptick of adult women teachers, especially that are sleeping with their teenage students, with the boys. And I want to say, and I want to be very clear about this, that there is nothing good or positive or like to be proud of if you have an adult woman, especially a teacher, who is sleeping with her young teenage student, even if it's a boy and she's a woman. Like, oh, I didn't say uptick, I said uptick, uptick, like Tick. There's nothing good about that. And the thing is, like, when people see these incidents, or they see it on the news or whatever's happening, they're like, oh, wow, he must have been so happy. He got to sleep with his teacher and blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you still have a strong power dynamic difference. That is still his teacher. She is still a grown woman. He is still a developing child. So just because it is a boy, it doesn't make it any more acceptable than if a male teacher was sleeping with a teenage student. It does not make it more acceptable. It does not make it okay. Or like, oh, well, it's fine. Like, no. I know. So, Carl, like, I hear what you're saying, Carl. I agree with you. But what I'm asking you is specifically when you're talking about like CCTVs infringing on people's privacy. So what I'm saying is like specifically, in what respect are you talking? Like you're concerned about what privacy exactly? Like having cameras in your home kind of privacy, having cameras in the washroom kind of privacy. Like in what respect exactly? Yes, bless. Agreed. Agreed. In public. So this is the thing. I think that cameras and CCTVs in public are 100% acceptable. And the reason I say that is because even in the United States, dude, even in the US or any other Western country, you do not have the right to privacy in a public space. Whenever you see any of these trials or any of these things go to court where people are like recording you in public or criticizing you, whatever, and then they take it to court, they try to sue them for it. They're like, there is no expectation of privacy when you are in a public space. So for me, CCTVs in public are absolutely fine. The expectation of privacy happens when you are in a private environment. And in that situation, I totally agree with you that there should not be any CCTVs that are recording you if you are, let's say, in your car, in your home. If you choose not to put them in your place of business, that is your choice because it is a private business. So, in all private spaces and within private entities, yes, you should have a, what's the word? Reasonable expectation of privacy. But when you are in public spaces, in reality, there is no reasonable expectation of privacy in a public space. At least, at least as it's, been delivered in court 100 times by now. I know L, yeah, but this is what I'm saying. This is exactly the problem. So yeah, L is saying, the whole town rejoices and says, "Wow, that boy slept with his own teacher. Wow, get him, boy." But they just want to F them. What if they're in love with a teenager? If you're in love with a teenager, you need therapy, and you need Jesus or something. You need help. No, L, it's water. Chill, bro. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's about to be 9 o'clock. So we are there. We are there. It is 9 o'clock. So I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. I hope you have a good day today. Once again, if you wanted to add me or give suggestions for topics or consult with me, personal development, business consulting, you can add my WeChat. My WeChat user ID is the same as my channel name, Comet Live. Remember, the last live stream this week is going to be on Friday. So from Friday morning, after Friday morning, I will not be doing live streams on WeChat for at least a couple of weeks. I'll continue doing my live stream on YouTube. So if you have access there, feel free to check it out. And we do video streaming on YouTube, but we only do audio streaming here on WeChat. And so because I am traveling and we don't have permission to stream on WeChat when we travel, that means I can only stream on YouTube, unfortunately. So what I will do is I will take some videos and some recordings every day and post them at the same time for you guys on WeChat. So you just come in at 8 a.m. Thank you very much, Trisha. 谢谢你. You can come in at 8 a.m. and check the content that I'm posting on WeChat, okay? And if you like it, you engage with it, you comment, you like whatever, then I will continue posting those videos in the morning for you on WeChat. But if you guys are not engaging with the videos, then I won't post it on WeChat and I will continue the live stream when I come back. That's about it. So with that said, thank you very much. You guys have been amazing. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. You enjoyed the stream. Stay beautiful, stay amazing, and I will see you tomorrow and we will change gears and change into topic. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, YouTube.